Now that was one of like the thigh bones. This here is one of the, like I guess this is kind of like little Mr. Chicken's pelvis. This one's pretty good because it's nice and flat actually if you keep it with the spine down like that. It's nice and controllable. So you hear how loud that is? Now if you keep a couple of these around, because you see this bag is starting to break and I'm going to have to switch bags soon. The reason why we use a bag is because if you don't use a bag, remember that bloody nasty marrow that I showed you yesterday? Well, you're going to have to call in O.J. Simpson's blood splatter expert to find out what happened to the kitchen if you don't use a plastic bag, okay? So don't skip the step of using the plastic bag. So I'm going to continue to do this, and meet you back here. So now that I've finished squashing my bones, maybe you want to take a look at the bones. I mean, they're starting to not even look like bones anymore. I also just really quickly freshened up my ice here. It's a hot day, and so the ice is actually melting fairly quickly. The next step here, now the reason why we went through the trouble of getting rid of those the cartilage and treating the cartilage separately is because it'll make that last step a heck of a lot easier to deal with. Now for this step here, what I'm going to do is go one step further than crushing the bones. I'm using my left hand here with the knife. Now I'm right-handed, but I'm going to be using my right hand with this hammer. And what I'm doing is sort of like cutting in cubes. I guess I would say like 1-inch cubes. And so I'm going to use the hammer to help me along. The hammer is really going to do all the work. You see what I did there? I went from front to back, and then start from front to back to front, doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to put that in there. For God's sakes, people, keep the hammer away from your thumb, alright? I'll say it again, this video is for entertainment purposes only. It just happens to be very informational. So, check out the bones. They look even less like bones than they did before. And now we are going to discuss grinding equipment. Now I have two kinds of grinders here. I have a manual and I have an electric. The most ideal grinder for this process would be one that is mainly associated with hunting. It's about at least 1,000 watts. This one is about 185 watts. So this is by no means an ideal grinder for this process. This is an even less ideal grinder for this process, but these are most likely the things that you have in your home. And if you don't have one of these, you could possibly get by with a food processor. And I'll demonstrate in a minute. Now, if you have just a regular manual grinder, I mean, you could probably get this from your mom, your mother-in-law, your grandma. If you don't have one yourself, I'm sure it's probably one that was passed down from generation to generation. I suggest using two kinds of plates. This is a very coarse one, and this is one that's for the meat and stuff. And I would start off with the bones, because you want to use this coarse one first. And I will show you how this works with the bones. I'm going to take a little elbow grease. here are my bones, which I have pre-crushed, and I try to keep one hand clean during this process. So now, put a manageable amount in first. Getting a little resistance here. You know, if you have both electric and manual, I would suggest starting with the manual because, well, unless you have a plate, a coarse plate like this for your electric, I personally don't. But it's good to start off this way. Now, if you find that things are getting stuck and nothing's coming out, what I like to do is just go reverse a little bit and then continue. With bones, I don't suggest putting bones in a food processor. I would possibly use a blender, and also, you know, since it's an electrical equipment, it will warm up. So just be mindful of that and keep an ice bowl handy. Oh, another thing, if you are going to use a blender to blend the bones, if you don't have a grinder, the recipe does call for water, 1 cup for one batch, and of course 2 cups for a double batch like I'm going to be using. I would suggest, getting a measuring cup, getting some water. That'll help the bones along, and that way you don't have to put the water in at the end. You just, use the water while you're dealing with the bones. Okay, so I finished doing a coarse grind on the bones, and look at that. I mean, it doesn't even, it looks like meat. Every so often, just feel the meat coming out of the grinder, because if it's getting too hot, you want to just shut it off and put it in, put it under some ice, because you're basically just asking for bacteria to come alive. Now, as you can see, it really wasn't that much that came out, but it already started getting a little warm, giving the machine a little bit of time to just cool off, and you're really not going to come across this much trouble with it heating up with the actual meat as you will with the bones. It's just, I mean, that is, of course, if you have a machine of low wattage like I do. I mean, this is ideal for, sausage making, meatloaves, and things like that. I mean, I don't think that Panasonic really had Catfood in mind when they made this machine. So what I'm doing, I just, I took this piece off here, and I think basically all electric models are fairly similar. I mean, here's the actual plate, and then in order to get in here, what I like to do, and you see there's a lot of stuff that got stuck in there, and this will happen from time to time. This is kind of dangerous, but I do it anyway. Put it on, see what happens. Alright, that's good. This actually feels pretty cool. And I feel perfectly comfortable with this, with my cats eating this. So I'm just going to put that in the, this is a blade that goes inside of, this spins around and flings all the meat out of the plate. So, and then there's a piece here, comes out, gross. I'm just kind of feeling around here. I would put that back through, and this too here, but let's see. This is alright. I mean, this has been ground up enough. Oh, dude. That is one reason why you might want to wear either something that you really don't care about getting dirty or an apron like I am. So now that I cleaned it up a bit, putting everything back in, here's the blade. Here's the plate. And this all gets covered by this little twisty thing. Alright. And we start again.